Hey all, and welcome! My name is Sierra Cassidy, and I am a Canadian smut author here to educate and entertain smut writers and readers. Today I've got some book recommendations for you. I've also got an exciting reader opportunity for you toward the end of the episode, so be sure to stick around to learn more. My brain has finally let me read again. I'm going to start off telling you about Choosing Theo by Victoria Aveline. This book is an MF alien romance where the leading lady is abducted from her home by mercenary aliens for what we eventually find out are extremely nefarious purposes. Earth is a Class 4 planet, which means it's super illegal for other alien races to have direct contact, since we don't officially know that extraterrestrial life exists and have not achieved extended space travel yet. Obviously, the mercenaries don't care about that. So our leading lady Jade manages to escape once on the alien planet, gets rescued by some passersby, and is immediately forced to integrate into their society. That involves choosing a local husband. This alien species is dying out with a huge proportion of babies born being male. So their entire society has restructured around attempts to keep the species going. That includes the men essentially competing for wives, where they acquire resources, etc., to prove they're capable of caring for a wife and child. They go through the selection process and get to have a wife for 3 months if they're chosen. If the wife doesn't get pregnant, she can choose to leave or extend the marriage for another 3 months. But the main goal is for the women to have as many kids as they can and are compensated by having whatever luxury they desire. Theo has never had a wife. The alien society in which he lives has extremely stringent beauty standards, and even though he's lovely by Earth standards, he's not at the top of anyone's list in his own society. Jade is super into him though, and chooses him to be her temporary husband. He's super miffed about this because he's convinced that she's some sort of spy or assassin sent by a client he refused, so it becomes sort of a big circle of her trying to convince him she's just a regular person, him refusing to believe her and trying to get her to admit she's a spy, all while they slowly fall for each other. There's fated mates in this story, and obviously that's going to apply to our leads, which turns out extremely helpful in the third act, but I won't spoil that for you. I didn't personally love the writing style of this book, but I did overall have a good time with it. The rest of the series follows Theo's siblings, and I'm unsure if or when I'll be reading those since I know nothing about the next sibling featured. The other book that I read was Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen. This is a fantasy romance debut of a sisterly writing duo who seem to have taken the world by storm if their 5,000 Amazon reviews and recent agent acquisition is anything to go by. Bonded by Thorns is the first in the Beasts of the Briar series and is a Why Choose Beauty and the Beast retelling. If you know anything about Beauty and the Beast, you'll be very familiar with the characters and happenings in this story. We begin with Rosalina, the daughter of the town oddball, working in the only bookstore in town, being romanced by our Gaston character Lucas, and generally being looked down upon by the entire town's population. Her mother disappeared, and her father has been traipsing around the globe trying to find clues to her whereabouts, as he's convinced she's in the land of the Fae. Like the original story, Rosalina's father brings her a rose or a rose-related token from each trip, and of course he tries to take a rose from the beast and that gets him imprisoned, which sends his daughter searching for him and exchanging her freedom for his. In this case, there are multiple beasts. The 4 Fae High Princes and their entire court were cursed by an enchantress to turn into beasts each night at sundown and return to their human form at sunrise. We have the Winter Prince, Caldarion, that is as icy as his princedom, the Summer Prince, Dayton, who is a drunken flirt, the Spring Prince, Ezrin, that hides his face behind a metal helm, and the Autumn Prince, Farron, who is a little cinnamon roll. There's also the Prince of Thorns, Caspian, that has a very complicated history with the princes. Rosalina decides she's going to break the curse, which involves finding the fated mates of each prince, and she slowly worms her way into their affections, though some are better at showing it than others. And listen, this is a why choose retelling. If you haven't figured out just from that concept that she's the fated mate of all the princes, then I can't help you. Just like the original story, Rosalina eventually flees the castle after a beastly outburst, gets hunted down by goblins, and rescued. There's still more books to come, so we have to inject a healthy dose of conflict, and what's better in a romance than sending the heroine away for her own protection? The next book in a series comes out today, June 13th, and it will end on a cliffy, so if you're allergic to those, keep that in mind. I did overall quite enjoy this book, despite it being very heavy-handed in leading the reader. Everything is very laid out, and nothing was particularly surprising to me, so if you want a lower stress reading experience where you kind of know what's happening at all times, then this would be perfect for you. The most jarring thing was lines taken directly from the Disney movie, but hopefully their agent has some insight as to whether the mouse will eat them if that's found out. Be aware that although this is a Why Choose Romance series, Rosalina does not get super freaky with any of the love interests in book 1. There are scenes between two of the princes without her that go all the way, but the closest we get is one of the princes going down on her. That all being said, I'm still going to read the second book, and I will report back how that goes. Now on to recent releases. Bewitching Her Monsters by Eve Vale. This title released May 24th and is a Why Choose monster romance with a curvy FMC and a variety of monster love interests, including a demon, phoenix, gargoyle, werewolf, and ghost. It has mistaken enemies to lovers, protective alphas, magic, and dark themes. It's book 1 in the Bewitching Monsters series, and the series must be read in order. Blurb. A werewolf, a gargoyle, a phoenix, and a demon walk into a bar. Yes, it sounds like a setup to a bad joke, but this is my life, and it just got weird. Jade. As a hopeless romance author, I go out to a local bar looking for something to cure my writer's block, when I discover 4 of the hottest guys I've ever seen in real life. This 40-year-old homebody finds all the inspiration I need. For my books, of course. But when I dare to take a couple of sneaky pictures with my phone, they catch me ogling. Now I believe they are following me. Maybe they're worried that I overheard something I shouldn't have. From how shifty they were acting, they might be involved in shady dealings. Aaron. The little witch was spying on us. I need to find out who she's working for. Is it for the Witch Council? If so, then I don't need to worry much. But if it's for our sworn enemy, then I'm not above a bit of torture to find out what she knows about our friend's death. Either way, her mesmerizing hazel eyes or those lush curves won't save her now. The 4 of us have been burned by a woman before. Never again. Next up is a pack extended by Jenny L. Black. This title released on May 25th and is the conclusion to the Williams-Torrance pack trilogy. It's a Why Choose contemporary OMEGAVERSE concluding with an extended HEA and babies. Since this series must be read in order, I'll be providing you the link to book 1 to get started if you haven't already. Blurb. I found my pack. No, let me rephrase. We've found our pack. It's been a couple years since we initially bonded, and now we're taking the next step. Kids. Well, I should say that's the plan. Does anything in life go exactly as we plan? Next up is A Naughty Deal by Leanne Ryans. This title released May 28th and is an MF contemporary OMEGAVERSE with a Virgin FMC, Mafia MMC, and an auction. It's also book 1 of a series. Blurb. When my brother's life depends on me paying his debts, I find a way to make it happen. Even if it means selling the only thing of value I have left, myself. Alphas are willing to pay a lot for a night with an Omega, especially one that's untouched. They aren't concerned with how willing you are, because one way or another you're going to submit. I'm going to do this for my brother's sake. I'm going to sell myself to the highest bidder. I'm not going to admit to the secret thrill running through my veins, and I'm definitely not going to read more into Leo's actions than an alpha's typical lust and possessiveness. I'm going to make it through the night, pay off my brother's debts, and then I'm going to forget this ever happened, if Leo lets me. Next up is Mended and Marked by V.T. Bonds. This title released May 30th and is an audiobook of the Warrior Elite series, Book 6, but the series does not have to be read in order. It is a dark MF alien Omegaverse with fated mates and forced proximity. The audiobook has a runtime of 4 hours and 55 minutes and is a duet narration with Cindy Kay and Tor Tom. It's available on Audible, but if you want access to an exclusive bonus scene, you can purchase it from VT's website. The Audible links will be there as well. Blurb. Pregnant and unbonded, I decide to take one last space cruise before settling into motherhood. When my ship crashes on a foreign planet, I think I've hit rock bottom. Until evil scientists pull me from the wreckage. A furry alpha with golden whiskers, a devilish smile, and the filthiest purr saves me. And for the first time in my life, I feel seen, wanted, loved. Except being stranded in the wilderness is the least of our problems. Will he be able to get us to safety, or will our enemies tear us apart? Next up is Queen or Not by M.P. Starkweather. This title released June 3rd and is a Why Choose contemporary Omegaverse. It's book 3 of the Pack Next Door series, but they're standalones and can be read in any order. Blurb. Being an Omega princess sucks. Both princesses and Omegas are trained to keep their mouths shut and obey. But Omegas play a deadly game of chance because we have no choice. We're property to be auctioned off and used as our owners see fit. And my royal parents planned to find the highest bidder. So I ran away. I didn't want that sort of life. I joined the Omega rights movement to fight for the same freedoms as everyone else. I've fought to keep my identity secret to protect my child from those who would hurt us, both royal and peasant. With the help of my loves, I transformed myself from Bianca Pierce, princess, to Bianca Windsor, rebel. I've moved up the ranks of the ORM and will fight to the death for those I love and those who need my protection. Together we will fight my parents for the changes Omegas need. If we succeed, I'll rise as queen. If we fail, the kingdom and our family will fall. Next up is A Country Quandary by Vicky Hilton. This title released June 6th and is an MF contemporary small-town slow-burn rom-com with a love triangle, bad boy, and cinnamon roll. It's the first book in the Tales of Tottenbridge series. Blurb. From high-powered lawyer to high-maintenance farmhand in 48 hours. What can go wrong? Losing her job is the worst thing Kitty can imagine, but overseeing her aunt's hobby farm may just be a contender. The word challenging doesn't cover it. Kitty's a neat freak who can't stand dirt and is terrified of anything bigger than a chihuahua. A city slicker who's never owned a pair of gumboots, she's hardly the perfect choice to run the show. If that's not enough, she finds herself torn between two men. Daniel, the local pub owner, is a sexy playboy who tries to seduce Kitty every chance he gets. He's got the looks, the charm, and the reputation to match, not to mention top-notch sexting skills. Will she give in to temptation before she returns to her real life? Then there's Josh, the childhood friend turned local vet. He's easygoing, passionate about his job, and has grown up to resemble a Marvel hero. With his four-legged sidekick Wendy and a mean game of Twister, will he be the one to steal Kitty's heart? Head spinning, Kitty navigates her new surroundings and her blooming love life. Choosing between cow patties and city streets was never on her to-do list, but here she is. Will Kitty embrace the country life and find love with Josh? Or will she return to the city after falling for Daniel's smooth talk? Find out in this feel-good romantic comedy filled with laugh-out-loud moments, quirky characters, and unexpected twists. One thing's for sure, this is a summer that Kitty will never forget. Next up is Yellow Ribbons Part 1 by Melanie True. This title released June 6th and is a contemporary Why Choose military romance. Blurb. Hazard pay. The appeal of extra money while your loved one is in combat is always enticing, until you remember why you're getting that money. Military life is not for everyone. But for me, it's as easy as breathing, a part of my everyday life. Deployments come with their own set of rules, and it takes a few weeks to find a new normal. Unfortunately, that's when my world comes crashing down. Life will never be the same, but maybe I can find another new normal. I become accustomed to acclimating to my circumstances, but will I be able to help the 7 men who have helped me through my darkest days? Next up is Havoc Killed Her Alpha by Marie McKay. The ebook and paperback of this story are already out and about in the world, but now the audiobook is finally available as of June 8th. This story is a Why Choose Enemies to Lovers OMEGAVERSE within the Poisonverse. You have two options for this story. There's the wide version or the exclusive version on Marie's website that includes some bonus content. Blurb. Never again will I be that little girl who dreamed of a pack to sweep her off her feet. I'm the Omega who killed my Alpha. The day I found my mates, I thought I'd found my home at last. Instead, I was kept from them and left to suffer. For months I clung to scraps of information, and I fell in love with each of them. Angel, Kai, Caspian, and Bane. But when my worst nightmare came, I faced it alone. Found beside my Alpha's body, my pack has claimed me at last. But they're too late. Now I'm trapped in their home with them. My mates. But there's no happily ever after because it won't matter to them if I had a choice or not. The man I killed was their pack brother, and they hate me for what I've done. And it's up to these 4 men to decide my fate. Next up is The Music That We Make by Miranda May. This title released June 9th and is a Why Choose urban fantasy rock star romance with fated mates, rejected mates, and second chances. Blurb. 5 years ago, I found my mates. 6 months later, it all fell apart. Betrayed by the men who were fated by the stars to be mine. Their reasons didn't matter. I wasn't going to stick around and give them another chance to hurt me. The screaming banshee went on to be a success without me. The only actual banshee in the band, mind you. But I didn't take it lying down. No, I went out and made a name for myself. Now Kenzie Silver is a household name right alongside the screaming banshees. When our labels merge, I find myself not only seeing them for the first time in 5 years, but having to work alongside them. Forced to collaborate with the 3 of them on a song that we're meant to sing together on a summer-long tour that I have no way of getting out of. Throw in a fake boyfriend, 2 whale shifters who will do anything to get me to forgive them, and a 3rd who will never admit he was mistaken. What could possibly go wrong? But the music, stars above, the music that we make together, it's magic. Next up is Breaking the Ice by Calliope Stewart. This title released June 10th and is the 2nd installment of the Seattle Omegas. It's a Why Choose contemporary OMEGAVERSE sports romance, although the FMC does not participate in the sports herself. Blurb. Aurelia Peterson has always been the rock of her family. Daughter, cousin, sister, mom. She used to be a wife too, but that ended violently, leaving Aurelia with mobility issues and trauma that haunts her dreams. All Aurelia wants is to raise her son, Toby. She is not looking for love, especially when she made the wrong choice the first time around. Unfortunately, Paxstone didn't get that memo. Physical therapy sessions aren't nearly as grueling now that Paxstone has barreled into her life, and Aurelia starts to wonder if all those romances that she's read aren't so impossible for her after all. Colt, Krista, Hideo, and Wilder are living a life that others could only dream of. After the success of his private security business, Colt wants to dedicate his time to supporting athletes on their way to greatness, as long as it doesn't get in the way of raising his son. It's not long before Colt's packmate Wilder starts to grow closer to the pretty Omega with sad eyes during her physical therapy appointments. Paxstone has always been too busy for an Omega, especially one so resistant to romance. As they become more entangled with Aurelia and her sweet little boy, Paxstone must face monsters from Aurelia's past for any hope of a future together. Next up is The Lost Melody by Jen Ballard. This title released June 10th and is a Why Choose contemporary rock star romance with enemies to lovers. It's the last book in the trilogy and they must be read in order, so I'll have the link to book 1 available to get you started. Blurb. Sometimes the damsel in distress saves herself. There are so many people who want to cage me. My body as a scientist experiment or to sell me. I just want to live a quiet life with my guys. Rourke and Turner are my protectors. They worry I'll disappear into thin air, never to be found again. I don't want to be taken again. There's a darkness inside of me that's awakening, a need for revenge, to kill those who have wronged me and watch their blood flow. Orion and Derek sense this and are the perfect people to help me in this. Light and dark, the four of them keep me from losing myself. I'm a melody lost in the wind, and I'm trying to figure out who this new me is. Will I ever find it? And now on to some coming soon books. First up is Filthy Royal by Allison Ames. This title releases June 15th and is an MF dystopian Omegaverse sci-fi with second chance fated mates. It's book 4 in the Ruthless Warlords series, and while it is a standalone, your reading experience will be richer for consuming the series in order. The audiobook of this series will be coming your way in September, but you can get it in ebook and paperback in the meantime. Blurb. The first time they met was all about pleasure. Then she betrayed him. So now he's back to punish, and he plans to play dirty. Filthy even. Meet Damian Skolov, an ex-cage fighter, current family enforcer, hot-headed royal warlord. Sure, she broke his heart, but he's over it now. This time his return is all about the mission and revenge. Then there's Scarlet, ex-dancer, current liar, protector of those she loves, until Damien explodes back into her life, bringing chaos, vengeance, and the same forbidden need she's tried to suppress since he left. Keeping her secrets from him is essential, except Damian Skolov never fights fair. Next up is Brutal Revelation by P.H. Nix. This title releases June 16th and is a Why Choose Dark Academy romance. It's book 2.5 in the series, so it falls between book 2 and 3. The series must be read in order, so I'll be linking book 1 as well so you can get started if you haven't already. Blurb. School's out, but the fun never arrived. The enemy is no longer on our doorstep. They're inside, wreaking havoc in the form of both perceived friends and known foes, making what was supposed to be a summer of celebration into an endless string of heartache that leads us to one brutal revelation. And finally, A Naughty Bargain by Leanne Ryans. This title releases June 18th and is an MF Omegaverse with forced proximity and a fake relationship. This is book 2 in the series following A Naughty Deal, and they must be read in order. Blurb. I may have gotten my brother out of trouble with the Galleons, but our situation hadn't changed. We are still drowning in debt that kept piling up faster than I could pay. My plan to forget the night with Leo doesn't work since he won't leave me alone. He says he has another proposition for me, but can I risk accepting and losing more of myself than I already have? I still haven't gotten over the night he owned me. What starts as a one-time arrangement quickly spirals into something more, and I find myself caught in a web of my own making. Leo won't let me keep my heart locked away, and I fear it's too late to turn back. Denying him seems worse than admitting I want him to. I have to remember to protect myself from what I fear are lies as I fight to come to terms with such a naughty bargain, and I can only hope Leo grows tired of me before my heat comes and leaves me vulnerable. Now on to that reader opportunity I promised you. Geneva Monroe is looking for ARC readers for Star Spear. This book is slated for release on August 11th, which is plenty of time for you to read Sun Serpent if you haven't already. Star Spear is book 2 of the Sun Serpent saga, an MF Fated Mates slow burn fantasy romance. I'll link the ARC application as well as the purchase and pre-order links for Sun Serpent and Star Spear if you'd like to check them out. Blurb. Betrayed to save a kingdom, consumed by wrath. Which will burn hotter, love or vengeance? Prince Callan's shadow left Innisfail with one goal, bring the fire singer home, no matter the cost. Seduction and lies were easy for him, until her. Now Cal is realizing the cost to save his kingdom may mean losing the only woman he's ever loved. Fueled by vengeance and seeking answers about her past, Illyria Solaris leaves the smoldering wreckage of the Great Library and sets sail for Innisfail. But when she arrives, the fearless fire singer finds herself facing an unexpected challenge: life at court. As the stakes rise, the lines between love, lust, and betrayal blur. When the ruthless Lord Malvet's pursuit follows Illyria and Cal to the palace gates, his insidious plot is still unclear. But one thing rings true. He will stop at nothing to take Illyria. Determined to possess her by any means necessary, there is no line Malvet will not cross, and mind control curses were just the beginning. To survive the encroaching darkness, Illyria and Cal must reconcile their past and work together. Will their magical bond be strong enough to vanquish the looming threat before it engulfs them all? With heart-pounding action, Starspear propels readers on an unforgettable adventure. Filled with immersive worlds, intense romance, and breathtaking magic, this thrilling second installment of the Sun Serpent saga will captivate fans of epic fantasy series like From Blood and Ash, Fourth Wing, and Throne of Glass. That's all for now. You can find all of my books and platforms in the description below, as well as links to all of the books mentioned in today's episode. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please do let me know. And if you'd like early access to these, you can join my Patreon where I share them with people as soon as they're ready to roll. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you soon for another episode. Bye!